Welcome to Obsession Engineering for the start of our next project. Now the things we love building here are things like this RSV4 because it's new, it's got lovely bits on it and it's just a pleasure to work on. But not every project can be quite this new. There are a few rules we like to stick to at Obsession Engineering. Is it 1990 or newer? Is it nice? Does it turn up as a complete motorbike? Is it not a Suzuki? These are important rules. But somehow, something slipped through the net. Apparently, this is a 1980 Suzuki GSX750 ET. And it appears to be made from like spaghetti hoops or something. And look how spindly the swinging arm is. Yeah. You might also notice there's a couple of minor items missing, but somehow I've still got talked into this project. Kev, you owe me. Luckily for this project, I am not working alone. I have Rob coming in so we can tag team the Suzuki. Right, crack on, Rob.
Dave.
Right, so our actual serious introduction to the Suzuki project. This belongs to a mate of mine called Kev. I slightly got talked into rebuilding this while I was selling him my old Tuono. So, 1980 GSX 750 ET. Apparently, Kev, when he was 17, had one of these. And for some reason, wanted another one. He was looking at this one on eBay and kept dropping hints, and then his wonderful other half bought it for him as a birthday present. So I think it's fair to say, Kev, she's a keeper. Not sure the bike should have been, though. Right, when Kev picked the bike up, it was reasonable, but it wasn't quite as tidy as he wanted, and so during COVID he took it all apart. The frame has been painted, the engine's been tidied up, all the sort of bodywork and tank and stuff has all been painted, and everything big looks lovely. And then of course COVID was over and Kev hadn't put his bike back together, and then it sat in his garage for a while, and now I've got it. And if I'm honest, I've had it upstairs in the workshop for a year because it's an old Suzuki. But it does need building, so we are going to, over the next few weeks, drop onto this in between some of the nice things in the workshop, and bit by bit we'll get it built up. So, it might not be the complete, every detail, nut and bolt rebuild that we've done on some of the other stuff. It's going to be more of a, look what we've done with this, and this is how this bolts together, and hopefully speed through it a little bit quicker, because then it'll feel like I've not worked on a Suzuki for quite so long. Before we actually start throwing big lumps at the Suzuki frame, we do of course need to build up some of the sub-assemblies. And so as soon as I actually got the bike over a year ago, I sent a load of the nuts and bolts and bits away to be replated so they look nice. We sent some bits off to be chromed, and so we have quite a lot of the parts all nice and tidy and ready to go together. But there's a few bits we haven't done yet, and so I think it's time we get cracking and actually start sorting out some of the details so that when we come to actually bolting them to the bike, they're all ready and good to go. So then, Rob, you're enjoying stripping some carburetors. Is it all going beautifully well because the bike's so nice and new and clean?
I noticed you said enjoying first. I wouldn't choose enjoying as the correct word on this set of carburetors. They are quite old and haven't been apart for quite some time, I'm guessing, so they don't really want to come apart.
So the carbs are going to go in the ultrasonic tank when Rob's finished taking them apart, but there are a few games like some of the screws are basically seized up because they may never have been apart before in over 40 years, and they're not really interested in coming apart. So some of them, instead of rounding them off, we're actually just going to try and get a set of mole grips or something on them. We've got some GIS screwdrivers that fit nicely, but they still won't come undone, and we don't really want to hit them with the impact driver because the car bodies are quite delicate. We don't want to damage anything, and so unfortunately, as rough as mole grips are, they might be the only solution for getting some of the carb screws off.
I've won! I've won!
Excellent stuff, Rob. Well done.
I've won the battle, but not the war. Not yet, anyway.
One of the most important things with a bike as powerful as the GSX750 is going to be the brakes. And so, in Rob's tub today, we have a selection of brake calipers and master cylinders. Obviously, the calipers are not in particularly nice condition. The trick today is going to be strip the calipers down completely, then we'll go to shot blast them and repaint them in very high temperature paint.
Caliper 1 came apart lovely. Little bit of resistance, but not too offensive. Caliper 2, pretty much the same. Caliper 3, lovely. Popping the pistons out, as you can see. No problem, seals are looking good. Bleed nipple out on the other two. Of course, that one didn't want to come out, did it? More problems.
To be fair, that bleed nipple is 40 years old and steel into aluminium.
It's older than me.
Is going to cause some problems. So it's not totally unexpected that we're going to break the occasional bit off. The nice thing is, I have got some new easy outs. So what we'll do is get the rest of it stripped down, get it nice and hot with a blowtorch, and blowtorch. Yes, and then we'll get an easy out into there, and hopefully it'll come out without having to drill it all out. As with many of these projects where all the little bits need to be done as well, stuff is taking a little bit of time. So this is one of the brake caliper holding brackets, and this is in the original paint, which is quite sturdy paint. But that one isn't too bad. This one on the other side was getting quite unpleasant to look at. So we've shot blasted this one, and then we can repaint that in some high temperature black gloss paint. And we're going to paint everything that's in the same area the same colour, so it all matches. I've drilled and tapped the bleed nipple hole in this caliper that had snapped off, so you've got to be quite careful when you're doing little bits like that, because obviously we don't need it to leak, so we don't need to drill it too far. But that's bled, drilled, and now has a bleed nipple that actually fits and works. And we've also replaced the internals out that master cylinder, so we've got like a new piston and seal kit for it, and so that it will actually pump brake fluid around, because that is going to be useful. So brake calipers are turning into a job for life for Rob. So you can see these are half paint cleared and bit shot blasted. And it turns out the original Suzuki paint or powder coat or whatever they used, which may have been painted over the top of at some point, modern brake paint stripper doesn't touch it. Not even in remotely. It just sort of laughs at it. And then the shot blaster, because we use quite a soft shot, sort of a fairly fine one, is struggling to take the paint off as well. So Rob's been doing this for a while, and so to give him something slightly different to do, we've moved on to actually some chassis assembly. So then, Rob, the calipers have turned into a bit of a palaver.
Yep, they're not much fun. We've had about 2 days on them so far. So we're moving on.
Yeah, right, what are we doing next, Rob?
Putting the headstock in. So we've had a bit of paint on there. We've had that good clean up. She's come up quite nice. New bearings on it, and we're going to slip that in nicely.
Beautiful. Have you lubed up?
Not yet, no.
Oh, we better lube up before we slip it in, Rob. With the calipers now basically in the sin bin to be done bit by bit, we've moved on to chassis bits. Rob has fitted the top and bottom yoke. The bottom one has been blasted and painted. New bearings fitted, everything greased up, everything slid in. And then, of course, we decided that the top yoke isn't really immaculate, and obviously it's quite obvious on this bike. So we are going to take that back off again and just rub it down and give it a clean. We're probably not going to shot blast it because it's such an incredible time-consuming technique. So we'll just buff that one down, give it a little flap over with some fresh paint. And then, of course, we decided, well, actually, that means we can put the forks in. Except I haven't refurbed the forks yet, so that's another job on the list. And then after that, we can put the engine in. Well, we didn't take the engine out of this, so just in case we need to put air boxes or any brackets or anything on the frame first, Rob is checking the instruction manual. Before we can actually put the engine in, of course, we need the engine mounting bolts and the little adapters and bits that go on the frame. And we didn't take this apart, and so now we're delving into the game of finding all the correct bits and where they go. we have started this adventure by opening up the tablet. If anybody's interested, that is like a Kindle that was bought on a deal for like 35 quid about 5 years ago. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be fast. It's just really good. You can put your workshop manuals on it and wipe your fingerprints off later. I've had all of these replated, and they are in several different finishes. So some of them are officially drab olive, sort of it looks black but it's not. Then there's shiny silver, and then there's nickel zinc plated yellow passivate, gold passivate. So depending on what colour they looked like they were when they came apart, that's the colour they're going back to. So we have all the engine mounting bolts. Kev was very good, and he had everything in a packet labelled. Engine mounting bolts, front brake, that sort of stuff. Then I had to take them out of the packets to put them in other packets for colour coordinating for the platers, and then had to go back through the photographs, so I've had to get all the bits back in the right place. But basically, these bolts are all for holding the engine on. These bits all hold the exhaust on. That side stand or centre stand bit, engine mounts, some other stuff, that's the hardware for the wheels, for the discs and sprockets and stuff. And then these are random ones that we don't actually know where they went, because they'll have been out of a random packet. And then we have this thing, which looks quite important. I'm sure we'll work out where it goes later. Right, so we have all of the big important stuff to put the engine in, except the engine. So that is the engine for the GSX750. Engine unwrapped, and it has been very thoroughly painted. Bits have been polished, it's all looking lovely and shiny. The painted spark plugs are a bit of a novelty, so we will be changing those later. And the wiring will probably look better when we take the masking tape off. Anyway, the engine is ready to go in the frame. So with the frame, to get it a bit more sensible height and get it level, we've put some wood underneath the frame rails, and we've put the screw-up jacks in the middle and on that side, because the engine's going to come in from over there. We're going to basically manhandle it onto there, and then bit by bit go, get a hernia and basically plop it from that point onto here, and then attempt to get the engine bolts in. Now the advantage if it's on here, if the engine's a little bit high, we can lift the frame up to meet the engine because the frame is lighter. And if we do need to jack the engine up a little bit, we've got a bit of movement with it. All of the brackets and bits that go on the frame, we've tapped the holes out, we've sort of got them in about the right place. We have all the bolts ready, so I think we're about set. So all we've got to do now is the heavy lifting. Right, so we are now ready for the heavy lifting bit. So bit by bit, in fact I'm going to do it with a foot on there, trying to avoid the frame. We're catching on the back there.
Catching front and back.
Right. And it can't go up.
Can't go
back out.
That's going to have to be a bit of a wiggle job then.
Right.
Because we can't get that through and that through at the same time.
What does it hit at the front and what does it hit at the back? Because it can't actually go up anymore either. I'll hold the engine. I've got the engine. I've not got it, Rob! Ah! What does that actually do? It's just a cover over something, isn't it? Be a big step getting the engine in this. Oh.
That went well.
It's not going to save us a lot, is it?
Not really.
Probably saves us a little bit. But then if we break...
Yeah, but if we damage that, then that's...
Yeah, put it back on then.
Wants to go back on.
Just loose. Will it go in at an angle, do you think?
I think we're going to have to do something like that.
3, 2, 1, should we go at an angle then?
We're on top now, the top's hitting.
There's going to be some editing on this episode, Rob, I can tell you that. It's not falling in the hole, is it? Let's have another go. 3, 2, 1. Why doesn't this engine fit in this frame? Right.
Back out again.
Back out.
Mind that sensor.
Yeah. So sit rep, the breather cover's coming out off the top because we can't get it in the frame, and I can't imagine that's had to come off to get the engine out, but such is life. Here we go then. Attempt number 138 of engine in the Suzuki. Ready? Oh, she's still snug, isn't she?
She's going though. She's going.
Right.
Yes.
Right. This is looking better because we're halfway in. We can still get the bolts in there, can't we?
We'll find a
right. That is now balanced on the jack in the middle. The frame's fallen off my wood on this side. So if we get the frame up and get these bottom back engine bolts in, Shall we slide the engine forward a little bit there? Right, so we are making steady progress with this, and it has taken a little bit of juggling, but we do have the engine basically in the frame, but not attached yet. And so what we need to do now is lift the frame up to meet the engine, because basically the first bolt we're going to try and get in is that one, and it needs to go into there. So as you can see, there's a bit of a gap. So there is a bit of jiggling and poking to be done. Unfortunately, not the fun version. So it turns out this has now become a 3-person job, because the engine is sort of solid but not particularly. So Pete is going to give us a bit of a hand. So I've got the engine. If Rob lifts the back of the frame, if Pete can lift the front of the frame, engine bolt number 1. Fitted. 1 bit down, 27 to go. This is the game when the images in the workshop manual are not especially clear. The images on the parts fiche online are slightly worse. So this is a little bit of a suck it and see technique. When you put the bolt through there, it goes all the way through. It doesn't actually screw into the engine case. It goes all the way through, and you need to put a nut on the back. And getting a nut on the back and up there and holding it in place is quite fiddly. So we found the nuts with the correct thread, we got them up there, and it took several minutes to get nuts on both sides, and there was a hint of muttering under my breath. And then I looked in the manual and realised it's supposed to fit these ones instead, which sort of swing round and lock into the bottom of the motor. And of course you can get them on, holding them easier. So that'll teach me. Read the book first, idiot.
Thank you for watching part 1 of the air-cooled old school Suzuki project. We'll be back soon, while we'll be trying not to regret our life choices.